Crossing the world of Liangjian, Li Yifan awakens the divine-level selection system. Faced with the destruction of the country and the bloody bayonets of the Japanese invaders, only blood can repay the debt. Get an American-style strengthening combo at the beginning. Make mortars. Recruit minesweepers, artillery, infantry, and establish a legion. Every choice comes with rich rewards. Essex class aircraft carrier. Satan Intercontinental Ballistic Missile. Super weapon vacuum implosion bomb. From then on, Li Yifan pierced through the bright sword and was invincible. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. 001 Travel through the world of Liangjian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Li Yifan struggled to prop up in the midst of corpses, shaking his still slightly drowsy head while looking around. Soldiers in light blue military uniforms were everywhere, with corpses lying on the ground in all directions. In the next moment, a surge of memories surged in his mind. After a moment of dizziness, he understood his identity. The lieutenant platoon leader of the 357th Regiment. At this moment, under the fierce attack of the Japanese Sakata squadron, the entire army was annihilated, and that scene was not a joke. Sanyun Ridge. Why does this name sound so festive? He muttered, and at this moment, a burst of gunfire came from afar, like setting off firecrackers to celebrate something big, with a continuous crackling sound. Li Yifan didn't think much and quickly climbed up the mountain with his hands and feet. Looking around, he saw two troops fighting fiercely. At this moment, the sound of the system in the mind rang out. Li Yunlong's new team is working very well with the Japanese team Sakata. Option 1. Turn around and run, reward with the title, Cowardly as a Mouse. Option 2. Join Li Yunlong and receive a reward title of Abandoning the Dark to the Bright. Option 3. Cooperate with Li Yunlong to attack Sakata United and reward American-style strengthening teams. Upon hearing this, Li Yifan's heart was filled with joy. Isn't this his favorite, bright sword? Choose 3. He made the decision without hesitation, with high expectations for the reward in his heart. Rewards are being distributed. The sound of the system sounded, and Li Yifan's mood also soared. Report. Captain, Yu Pengfei and his entire company are ready to go, one not many, one not many. Yu Pengfei's voice was loud and full of confidence. Li Yifan turned around and saw a group of soldiers from the Jin Sui army, with straight military uniforms and M1 Garland rifles shining coldly in their hands. The advanced equipment such as heavy machine guns, mortars, grenade launchers, and radios in the team are eye-catching. Well, the firepower in the company is almost catching up with the formation of a domestic army regiment. Everyone has it, prepare for battle. With a single command from Li Yifan, morale was greatly boosted. He picked up the telescope, and the distant area of gunfire was filled with smoke. Li Yunlong's troops are charging bravely, with their target directly at the Sakata troops. Li Yifan understood and couldn't help but smile at the corner of his mouth. Artillery, fast, fast. He urgently called out. Several artillery squad leaders quickly gathered and climbed up to Li Yifan's side like monkeys. Li Yifan searched on the right side with a telescope and quickly discovered the Sakata Joint Command headquarters. He smiled smugly, it was really effortless to get it. Do you see that place? Can we give it a heavenly maiden scattering flowers with our cannon? Li Yifan asked excitedly. A few artillery brothers, quickly, estimate the distance for us. The class monitor waved his hand and shouted with a lively expression on his face. It's done. Several artillery squad leaders frowned and looked at each other in an inappropriate manner. Come on, give us a heavenly maiden to scatter flowers. Other brothers, prepare for battle. As soon as the gunfire rings, we'll kill him without leaving a single word, by time for everyone to retreat. Captain Yu waved his fists and enthusiastically assigned tasks. Deliing. Everyone responded in unison, as if they were going to participate in a carnival. 4 rows and 16 mortars, like a group of playful mischievous children, aimed their guns at the Sakata squadron command. Fire. With a loud shout, 16 mortars instantly spewed out flames. Shio. Shio. The shell sliced through the sky, carrying a series of happy endings, flying towards the target. Bang, bang, bang. A series of explosions echoed one after another, and the Sakata Joint Command instantly turned into a sea of flames. At this moment, on Li Yunlong's side, he had just rushed out 500 meters with his troops and was busy building artillery positions, preparing to surprise the Sakata squadron. Unexpectedly, before they could even take action, they saw the Sakata Joint Command being bombed out. Li Yunlong widened his eyes, took off his military cap, touched his bald head, and looked bewildered. Captain, there is a friendly army on the left, and 80% of them are brothers of the Jin Sui army. Zhang Dabiao suddenly pointed to the left, looking surprised. Li Yunlong turned his head and saw, as expected, that Li Yifan's troops were fully firing, and the firepower support was simply boiling with blood. Jin Sui army. These guys are quite good at causing trouble. When we break through, we must find out which unit it is and treat them to a drink. Don't go back until you're drunk. Li Yunlong laughed heartily, with a hint of gratitude in his eyes. Captain, the command center on the devil's side has become a ruin. It must be like a headless fly at this moment. Let's not take the opportunity to run away, let's wait a little longer. That's great. Everyone, listen to the orders. Let's break through head-on and catch them off guard. Li Yifan was overjoyed when he saw that the headquarters of the devil had been destroyed. He shouted at the top of his voice, "Artillery brother, let's make it more cheerful. Others, follow me and drive the little devil back to his hometown. Go ahead." With a command, the soldiers rushed towards the enemy's position like fierce tigers released from cages. Kill me. The strengthening of the flank was like a divine weapon descending from the sky, catching the devils off guard. They haven't regained their senses yet, and a small team of devils has already been reimbursed. The other devils hurriedly turned their guns, but collided head-on with the firepower net of the reinforced company. Li Yifan's reinforced platoon is a uniform M1919A6 heavy machine gun, and its firepower is simply not enough. The gunshots were loud, and the devils became targets one after another. The troops were unstoppable, and their flanks broke through cleanly. On the other hand, Li Yunlong's team also broke through a position with the help of Li Yifan's artillery fire. The route of the two teams breaking through is almost identical, with the target pointing directly at the old stronghold of Sakata United. And on the edge of the battlefield, there is an excellent observation highland. Chu Yunfei built a greenhouse with his hands, and the war was raging through the telescope. He twitched his lips and couldn't help but laugh. Oh my, these 8th Route brothers, where did they come from with such good artillery skills? Sun Ming, who was beside him, squinted his eyes and looked puzzled. Who knows, this barrage of gunfire is probably not from the 8th Route Brigade. Chu Yunfei patted his thigh and rolled his eyes. He noticed the group of brothers wearing Jin Sui military uniforms on the flank. He smiled and said, "Hey, aren't you from our own family?" Which group of brothers, with such personality, actually teamed up with the 8th Route? Sun Ming carefully examined and touched his chin, saying, "I can't tell which regiment it is, but this kind of aggressive spirit, is it the 3, 5, or 7 regiments? 357 Regiment. Didn't they have Sakata and his gang surrounded them?" Chu Yunfei couldn't help but shake his head when he remembered the rescue. As soon as the words fell, Li Yifan's troops raised their military flags and charged towards the enemy line. The messenger carried the military flag on his shoulders, with a heroic demeanor. Chu Yunfei couldn't help but laugh and said, Lao Li is actually fighting alongside Yen Laoxi's troops. Brothers, give us some color to see, don't let our 358th Regiment lose. 002, Team Flag. What is this thing? You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Deleting. The soldiers responded with high morale. The left-wing position was broken, and the encirclement of the Devil's Front was also torn open, and the main position of Tsangyun Ridge was in chaos. Li Yifan and Li Yunlong led their troops and stormed into the command center of the captain of the Japanese army like a whirlwind. That place has long been bombed into ruins, and the capital of the dead can almost be piled up into a small mountain. This devil's stronghold is really lively. Look at this, Colonel, it's like setting up a street stall. Li Yunlong joked, with a smug smile at the corner of his mouth. At this moment, Li Yifan also stepped into the ruins surrounded by a group of soldiers. I am Li Yifan from the 1st Battalion and 1st Company of the 357th Regiment of the Jin Sui Army. His voice was loud, and his national face showed the determination of a soldier. Li Yunlong recognized him at a glance and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Li Yunlong from the new regiment of the 8th Route Army is here. Li Yifan, you can go ahead and lift the heavenly spirit cover of the Japanese command with just one shot. Can't you be promoted now? As he spoke, he looked at Li Yifan with his eyes, as if he was looking at a trophy. We were able to successfully defeat this command center, thanks to your direct containment of the Japanese. This credit is up to us to score points. Li Yunlong patted Li Yifan's shoulder. Li Yifan waved his hand with a disapproving expression on his face and said, "Come on, what's the use of that little reward for me? Can you give me something more practical? For example, 2 crooked handles. Or, the little nurse in your group with electrified eyes and waist like willows, could you introduce me to her?" As he spoke, his gaze seemed to outline a seductive figure in the air, and a wicked smile curved around his lips. Li Yifan looked at Li Yunlong's proud expression and couldn't help but think of a joke he heard last night. It was said that a monkey had picked up a knife and had to show it to the tiger. However, the tiger glared, and the monkey quickly offered the knife and even smiled. At this moment, Li Yunlong handed Sakata Nobutaka's commanding knife to him and said with a smile, "This knife is good, it's just a cheap one, you kid." Li Yifan took the knife and gently pulled out a piece, his eyes lit up. Indeed, it was a good knife, but the sudden sound of the system's prompt in his ear made his heart skip a beat. This is Sakata Nobuyoshi's commanding knife. The system sound is calm. Obtain Sakata Nobutaka's command knife. Option 1. Collect and become a samurai sword collector. Option 2. Surrender and be promoted to Lieutenant Deputy Battalion Commander. Option 3. Gift to Li Yunlong to obtain the M1 rifle production line. Li Yifan's eyes rolled and immediately decided on the third option. Favorite. Deputy Battalion Commander. There's no real M1 rifle production line. Nowadays, with such a shortage of weapons in China, this production line is a treasure that cannot be exchanged for gold. This new regiment of Old Li, although the main force in our 8th Route Army, still has the responsibility of making those old antiques in Hanyang. With this production line, we won't be able to let Lao Li and his team switch guns in the future, and we can continue to benefit from it. Li Yifan already had a plan in mind and decided to closely follow Li Yunlong and hold on to this thigh. At this moment, he noticed the beautiful soldier beside him, and his gaze couldn't help but wander between her eyes, lips, and neck. He thought to himself, "This beauty is also quite tempting. If he could hold her back, then he would be a winner in life. But for now, it's important to get the weapon production line done first. Captain Li, this official sword, with your irresistible appearance, I will give it to you as a token of goodwill. It can be considered a small gesture of goodwill towards you." Li Yifan smiled and handed the knife over. Li Yunlong rubbed his hands, his eyes smiling like 2 crescents, but he humbly said, "How could you be so embarrassed?" As he said, his hand was very honest and he took the assistant's knife. Captain, we need to break through quickly. Zhang Dabiao whispered a reminder from the side. Captain, we plan to break through head-on. What are your plans? Li Yunlong asked with a hint of anticipation. Although Li Yifan's platoon was small, the firepower was so strong that Li Yunlong had secretly observed it and exclaimed in his heart. Those heavy machine guns, mortars, and the continuous firing rifles in the hands of the soldiers, looking at them makes one's heart skip a beat. With such a strong army fighting side by side, casualties can definitely be reduced significantly. Li Yunlong wants to make a positive breakthrough. What is your choice? Option 1. Divide into separate actions, break through on your own, and reward 5 105 howitzers. Option 2. Break through side by side and reward 1 artillery support. With 2 options, Li Yifan hardly hesitated and directly chose to fight side by side. If we don't establish a good relationship with Captain Li now, we won't be able to reap this benefit in the future. At this moment, he caught a glimpse of the beautiful woman Ba Lu from the corner of his eye. Her captivating eyes flickered slightly, and his lips lifted, seemingly silently encouraging him. Her perfect figure undulated slightly with gentle breathing, adding a touch of allure to this tense moment. Li Yifan's heart was shaken, and he became even more determined to break through together. Haha, Captain Li, you said we were divided into 5 howitzers, but you are the real treasure trove. If we hang out with you, what treasures can we possibly find? Li Yifan happily spoke while rummaging through boxes and cabinets in the command center. Okay, then let's rush out head-on together. Don't worry, I'll find out what's useful. As Li Yunlong answered, his gaze swept over the mess in the room and he said, Hey, this radio station is really a pity. What a good guy. Looking for the team flag, it's almost. Li Yifan continued to search without lifting his head. Not long after, the team flag was actually found on a Japanese lieutenant. He took out the flag and unfolded it, and it was indeed that devilish thing. Team flag. What is this thing? Li Yunlong asked with a confused expression, turning his head to look at Zhang Dabiao. This guy should have a clear understanding of these strange things. Zhang Dabiao shrugged and said, Captain, you asked the wrong person this time. Li Yifan proudly put away the flag and explained, this flag is the heart and soul of the Japanese team. If we blow up their headquarters now, at most we can defeat the 3rd team, which is the Sakata team. But if we hand over this flag, the name of the 3rd squad will really become history. Upon hearing this, Li Yunlong's eyes lit up and he couldn't help but stare at the flag in Li Yifan's hand. It was as if he saw the smiling female soldier behind the revocation of the number. Her eyes sparkled and her lips lifted lightly, as if saying, Captain Li, this is really a great achievement. This flag won't be like our battle flag, it's a precious lump, right? Lao Li's eyes lit up and he asked curiously. Haha, that's right. The little devil values that flag more than his life, saying that if the flag is with people, the flag will perish. 003, after finishing this ticket, let's go back to eat braised pork belly. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Li Yifan had a proud expression on his face, as if he had already seen the angry and despondent expression of the devils. We were able to capture it this time. It was purely because the heavens opened their eyes and blew up the devil's command center. If it weren't for this, the flag would probably have been burned by the Japanese themselves long ago. They have a dedicated flag protection team, and if the situation is not good, they will destroy the flag first. After listening, old Li's assistant official knife seemed to lose its luster. He smacked his lips as if he had eaten sour grapes and said, TSK, little devils know how to play. These rules are set one by one. Li Yifan chuckled and carefully hid the flag close to her body, her movements gentle as if she was applying skincare products to her beloved woman. He turned his head to look at Li Yunlong, his eyes full of determination. Brother Yunlong, we need to find a way to break through. Li Yunlong waved his hand and said nonchalantly, the Japanese are surrounded like iron barrels, with 4 blockade lines. We don't even have any artillery support. However, I don't believe in this evil, his grandmothers. We must make a hole for them. Li Yifan nodded, but he thought to himself that when he defeated the Japanese, there would only be half of the team flag in the world, and the side in his hand was very likely to be the only complete one. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but sneak a glance at the female detective standing next to him. Her eyes were full of spring, her lips lightly lifted, as if silently encouraging them. The temptation made Li Yifan's heart beat faster involuntarily. We need to quickly develop a plan to break through the blockade. Li Yunlong pointed to the map in his hand, his arrogance as if he had already seen the dawn of victory. Li Yifan widened his eyes and stared at the curves and straight lines on the map, suddenly realizing that this was Li Yunlong's breakout trick. He chuckled and thought to himself that the enemy was defending the Zhangyan Ridge as if it were an iron barrel. It would take a lot of brainpower to penetrate. Thinking of the scenes in the drama where the brave warriors sacrificed their lives one by one, he couldn't help but shake his head and thought to himself that he needed to change the gameplay this time. He suddenly patted his thigh and remembered the treasure he had just acquired. Firepower support. Isn't this a win-win situation? He enthusiastically gestured towards the map and turned to Captain Li, saying, "Old Li, if there were such a big shot, giving the Japanese full coverage, wouldn't it be much easier for us to break through?" Captain Li glanced askance and replied, "At least half of the casualties." Upon hearing this, Li Yifan felt a sense of relief and waved his hand, saying, "All right, this artillery support is all for me. Just prepare to break through." After speaking, he put on a swaggering posture, picked up the radio, and pretended to send a telegram. On the other end, Chu Yunfei stood at the base, holding a telescope in his hand and staring at the battlefield with fiery eyes. He suddenly shouted, "Deputy Sunday." Deputy Sun quickly responded, "Captain." Chu Yunfei ordered, "Give orders to the artillery battalion to prepare for firing support." Deputy Sun was stunned and reminded, "Tuan Zuan, that's the 8th route. We haven't received a written notice from Officer Yen. This support must not violate regulations, right?" Chu Yunfei looked confident, with a slightly raised corner of his mouth and a firm gaze, saying, "In special circumstances, special measures will be taken. If anything happens, I will take responsibility." After speaking, he turned his head and continued to observe the battlefield, with a hint of cunning in his eyes. At this moment, the female soldier Tsuehua, who was waiting by the side, walked over. She gently brushed her hair in her ear, her eyes twitched, a smile on her lips, and her chest trembled gently with her steps. She walked over to Chu Yunfei and said softly, "Tuan Zua, with such confidence, should I also tell Tsuehua?" Chu Yunfei glanced at her and saw that Tsuehua had a slender neck and jade-like skin. She couldn't help but smile and thought to herself, "This little girl always knows how to make people move." Upon hearing Sun Ming's words, Chu Yunfei smiled happily and said, "Oh, who told you that I was going to save Route 8? I am the brothers who are going to support the 357th Regiment. They are trapped by the little devils in Zhangyan Ridge. As comrades, shouldn't we provide some artillery support?" Sun Ming blinked his eyes twice and suddenly realized. He gave a thumbs up to Chu Yunfei and said, "Captain, your move is amazing. Who can say no in this way? Hurry up and notify the artillery battalion. We need to hurry up and save the soldiers like putting out a fire." Chu Yunfei waved his hand. Delying. Sun Ming bowed and ran to make a phone call in a lively manner. On the Zhangyan Ridge over here, Li Yunlong anxiously paced back and forth, sat down next to Li Yifan, and widened his eyes. "I said, Shaoli, did your artillery support get lost? Don't tell me you're bragging." Li Yifan curled his lips and looked at the countdown confidently, "It's getting faster, be patient." Sure enough, before long, the sound of artillery boomed from the sky. Li Yunlong quickly listened carefully and could not help smacking his tongue. "Damn it, this movement is at least the size of an artillery battalion. Is there such a awesome brother army nearby? Of course, Chu Yunfei's 358th Regiment is not far away, and I just asked them for help. Li Yifan raised his eyebrows proudly. Chu Yunfei, that's great. Li Yunlong patted his thigh and said, I have taken note of this matter. Whenever it becomes useful in the future, even if you speak up, I will never refuse. At this moment, the female investigator beside her had her eyes flickering, her red lips lightly parted, and she coquettishly said, Look at you rough old men, why are you so excited? With that time, why don't you think about how to thank Captain Chu? She lightly patted her chest and smiled at the corners of her mouth, which made her heart itch. The shells were like meteor showers in the sky, hitting the heads of the devils one after another, turning their positions upside down. That scene was even more lively than setting off firecrackers during the Chinese New Year. Li Yunlong and Li Yifan combined, and we had to join in the fun. They immediately waved their hands and ordered, Brothers, go. Go ahead. With a shout, Li Yunlong's new group and Li Yifan's company rushed towards the Japanese like fighting chicken blood and going crazy. After finishing this ticket, let's go back to eat braised pork belly. Li Yifan shot down a Japanese soldier with one shot, shouting and rushing at the front. At this moment, the soldiers under Li Yifan were holding M1 Garand, like playing, clattering like a shuttle. The devils have never seen this battle before. They were all dumbfounded, staring at their own encirclement, as if it were a piece of paper, and getting a deep chill. Chu Yunfei was also unwilling to be outdone, and the artillery support was as if they didn't want money, desperately throwing it at the heads of the devils. These 4 layers of encirclement were pierced in less than half an hour. When they broke out of the encirclement, the new regiment and the first platoon suffered only 100 casualties, but on the Japanese side, they knocked down several hundred. Li Yunlong happily slapped his thigh and said, Damn it, this battle is even more thrilling than marrying a wife. 004, Captain Li, we will meet later. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chu Yunfei, with a smile on his lips, scanned the battlefield and happened to catch a glimpse of the beautiful military and civilian female soldiers next to him. Her tall chest trembled slightly as she ran, her hair fluttering in the wind, and the excitement of battle flickered in her eyes, making her heart skip a beat. She thought to herself, this rose on the battlefield also has a unique charm. The firepower of Li Yifan's army was incredibly fierce, hitting the little devils like falling flowers and flowing water. Li Yunlong, who was watching beside him, felt itchy and thought to himself. If this were my team, wouldn't it be so joyful? Just as he was thinking about it, a soldier came panting and reported, Regiment. Captain, the 1st Battalion commander hasn't come out yet and is still trapped inside. Upon hearing this, Li Yunlong widened his eyes and without saying a word, pulled out his pistol and shouted, Damn it, brothers, let's kill a bullet and rescue the battalion commander. At this point, the selection system popped up again, providing 3 options. Li Yifan glanced at her and had already made a decision in her heart. Without hesitation, she chose the 3rd one. He only had one thought in his heart. No matter what, he must bring Zhang Dabiao back safely. Brotherly, my battalion commander is still trapped inside. Take a step first, and I will personally go and retrieve him. Li Yunlong said, with a hint of determination in his eyes. Looking at Li Yunlong's appearance, Li Yifan's heart moved. She remembered a female detective on the battlefield just now, her eyes shining like stars, her lips slightly raised, as if silently encouraging them. Her neck was slender, her skin fair, and she looked particularly charming in the flames of war. Li Yifan's heart warmed and his fighting spirit grew stronger. He said to Li Yunlong, Brother Yunlong, let's go together and rescue Zhang Dabiao, and let your battalion commander see our strength. Li Yifan patted his chest and exclaimed with a lively expression, Oh, Captain Li, you're talking about us going through a barrage of bullets together. How could we leave that kid Zhang Dabiao alone? Brothers, do you have the courage to come with me and take another shot back and get that guy out? Have a group of soldiers responded to Li Yifan's call in unison, which was heartfelt and convincing. I really didn't take a wrong look at old Li. You're a tough kid. On the outskirts of Canyon Ridge, in an inconspicuous corner. After successfully rescuing Zhang Dabiao, Li Yunlong and Li Yifan ran non-stop for a long time, finally shaking off the tail of the little devil and safely returning to their base camp. Captain Yu, let's break up here. Li Yunlong looked reluctantly at Li Yifan and his group of ironclad soldiers, muttering to himself. These guys are getting more and more fierce in battle, and their equipment is also top-notch. A hint of hesitation flashed in Li Yifan's eyes, as he pondered whether to lead his brothers directly into Li Yunlong's command. Just as he was hesitating, the crisp prompt sound of the selection system rang again. Ding, we are about to face a decision. Option 1. Join Li Yunlong and serve as his battalion commander, giving away a battalion of American equipment. Option 2. Fly individually and receive a complimentary M24 grenade production line. Faced with these two options, Li Yifan made a mistake. The idea of following Li Yunlong and being able to fight the Japanese with pain and pleasure made his blood boil. But if we go it alone, that grenade production line is very tempting. At this moment, Li Yunlong noticed a female detective next to Li Yifan. Her eyes flickered, her lips slightly parted, as if hinting at something. Her fair neck and curvaceous chest were even more alluring in the sunlight. Li Yunlong couldn't help but joke, Captain Yu, look at your appearance. Did you stumble over something beautiful? Ha! Li Yifan regained his senses and chuckled twice, but his heart was still struggling with the decision that made people scratch their ears and cheeks. At this moment, Li Yifan was full of ambition, holding a production line of rifles and grenades in his hand. He already had a blueprint for a small soldier factory in his mind. He pondered that this was much more than being a commanding battalion commander to contribute to the country. Li Yunlong over there was first sent to embroider flowers, then transformed and became a member of the independent team. Li Yifan thought to herself and decided to part ways with Li Yunlong first. He had a clear idea in his mind that Li Yunlong was determined not to escape. He knew the position of the independent regiment as well as it was hovering around Yang village. Li Yifan plans to set up camp nearby, and in the future, there will be opportunities to meet Li Yunlong unexpectedly. Captain Li, we'll meet later. Li Yifan waved his hand boldly and handed over 10 M1 Garland rifles and 500 bullets. Brother Yunlong, you can't let go of these guns. I'll give them to you as a souvenir. He said these guns were once used by the brothers who sacrificed heroically under Li Yifan's command. Li Yunlong took the gun and his eyes narrowed with a smile. I said, Brother Li, you can do it with me. What can you do with Yan Laoshi? Li Yifan coughed twice and thought to himself that Li Yunlong would really take advantage of the heat and say, Captain Li, let's talk about this matter in the future. I have to take a step now. As he spoke, he hurriedly left with his men and horses, feeling fortunate to have walked quickly. Otherwise, he would have been moved by this guy's words, which would have been troublesome. At this moment, the female investigator beside her had her eyes rolling, her lips smiling, and she gently twisted her waist, casting a seductive glance in the direction of Li Yifan, as if saying, Captain Li, you're walking so fast, won't you stay any longer? Li Yifan's heart skipped a beat, but his footsteps did not stop. He just turned back and waved his hand, with a hint of reluctance on his face, but more determination. The situation is as tense as a rubber band on a slingshot, ready to explode. Li Yunlong watched as Li Yifan's back gradually receded, and couldn't help but playfully mutter to himself, Brother, tough. Before he could finish speaking, he waved his hand and led the team around a corner, strolling in another direction. After breaking up with them, Li Yifan pondered as he walked and said, All right, send some good news to the division headquarters. Li Yifan, the platoon leader of our 357th Regiment's 1st Battalion, 1st Company, fought against the Japanese at Sanyan Ridge. He brought down the platoon leader of the Sakata squadron and also tidied up 1 lieutenant colonel, 2 lieutenant colonels, and more than 300 other little devils. Even their flags were confiscated. Yes, Captain. The signalman responded and quickly fiddled with the radio station. Li Yifan spread out the map, pondering the route for retreat. Suddenly, he patted his forehead and suddenly realized, oh my God, how could I forget this thing? He stomped his foot and urgently ordered, quick, turn around, we need to catch up with the new first class. However, an hour passed and no new shadow was seen. Li Yifan sighed regretfully and said, why did you forget to mention the incident with the Yamamoto Special Agent Team? 005, report, the battle report from the 357th Regiment has arrived again. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Li Yifan originally wanted to mention it to Li Yunlong, so that Kong Jia and his old comrades could also keep an eye on it. Unexpectedly, I forgot when I was busy. Alright, go garrison near Yang village. Li Yifan thought of this and suddenly remembered that he had a special reward. The Special Tactics Team. Without hesitation, he decided to use these elites. In no time, a fully armed tactical team stood in front of him, with the leading strong man wearing a submachine gun and smiling at him. Report to the company commander, the Special Tactical Team is here to report. At this moment, Li Yifan's gaze couldn't help but linger on a female soldier in the team for a moment, her full chest trembling gently with her steps. Under the sunshine, the skin is as delicate as ceramics, and that smile is even more heart-pounding. I thought to myself. This special team is really extraordinary. Li Yifan glanced and saw that his team was only 10 people, so there were not many beautiful women like her. However, this equipment is so sophisticated that it can even strengthen his American style. He couldn't help but laugh and thought to himself, these 10 people are not easy to deal with Yamamoto's gang. Come back now, don't leave it scattered. He waved his hand and shouted. Deleting. The team members responded in unison, and the atmosphere was as relaxed as if a game had just ended. At the same time, there was a tense atmosphere within the headquarters of the 65th Division. The 358th and 357th Regiments both belonged to the 65th Division of the Jin Sui Army, and the division commander Chen Changfeng was busy, looking anxious. The 357th Regiment hasn't heard from you yet, he asked. Teacher, I'm afraid it's not good anymore. The staff answered cautiously. Upon hearing this, Chen Changfeng involuntarily clenched his hand into a fist. The main force of over 3,000 people, say no and then it's gone. Anxious, a staff officer rushed over and said, Commander, the 358th Regiment urgently needs a telegram. Before he could react, another staff officer stood up and said, Commander, the 357th Regiment has also called. What? There's news from the 357th Regiment. Upon hearing this, Chen Changfeng immediately threw down the document in his hand and took the telegram, his eyes wide open. Killed Captain Sakata United. And captured the team flag. Breaking through the encirclement from the front. He read one by one, his chin almost fell to the ground. However, he quickly regained his senses, and although he couldn't believe it in his heart, who knew about what was on the telegram and everyone was happy about it. At this moment, a female soldier walked in at the entrance of the division headquarters, with a graceful figure, smiling eyes, and her chest trembling gently with her steps, which made everyone couldn't help but take a few more glances. Teacher, good news keeps coming, shouldn't we celebrate? The female soldier's mouth curved upwards, her voice sweet as honey. Chen Changfeng looked at her, his shock and doubt instantly diluted by the joyful atmosphere. On the land of our country, Chang Shinkai and his gang always like to add fuel to the fire and boast about their achievements. For example, the record of killing more than 10 little devils can be rendered as the elimination of hundreds of people. This kind of thing cannot be stopped, so every time I see their report, I have to automatically subtract half of the moisture. But this time, the captain of the Sakata team, Sakata Nobutaka, was killed, and their team flag was also seized, which cannot be fake. Isn't it just bragging this time? Chen Changfeng was abnormal, his eyes lit up with excitement. Since the Battle of Shinko, the Jin Sui army has been defeated and retreated, and the situation on the national battlefield is also worrying. If this battle report is true, it really gives people a boost. He suddenly remembered that there was still a telegram from the 358th Regiment that he hadn't read. He quickly grabbed the telegram and read it at a glance. A unit of the 357th Regiment shelled the command post of the Sakata Regiment, smashing their command system and claiming to have killed hundreds of little devils, breaking through the encirclement of the Sakata Regiment from the front. In the telegram, there was no mention of half a word for the 8th route. Chu Yunfei, this guy, has a lot of heart like a sieve. He knows that it's not appropriate to mention the 8th route assistance, so he only talked about the 357th Regiment. After reading the telegram, Chen Changfeng quickly walked to the map by the wall and studied it carefully. The headquarters of the 358th Regiment is not far from Sanyan Ridge, and the combat situation there should be clearly visible. At this moment, he couldn't help but imagine the female liaison officer at the station, her captivating eyes and rosy lips slightly rising, as if implying something. Chen Changfeng couldn't help but think, how beautiful it would be if he could witness this battle with his own eyes and also see that beautiful liaison officer by the way. When Chen Changfeng received the news, he was so happy that he almost didn't jump up. He exclaimed in his heart, this is really evil, and this can also come true. The 357th Regiment, which made everyone tremble with fear, actually cleaned up the arrogant leader of the Japanese Sakata United and even beat the entire Sakata United to pieces. Think about it, that's the ace in the legendary Japanese ace. Back in the day, during the Battle of Shinko, Sakata United defeated Chang Shinkai's 2 divisions with a first block option 2. At that time, I had to deal with the 358th Regiment, where over 300 people were reimbursed in less than an hour. If it weren't for running fast, the entire regiment would have to join in. Who would have thought that this time the 357th Regiment was made dumplings by the Sakata United, and everyone thought it was over. But what happened? Surprise. Report, Master, the battle report for the 357th Regiment has arrived again. Li Yifan stormed into the headquarters and handed over a telegram. Chen Changfeng received the telegram and couldn't help but sigh, this Sakata team is indeed not a fuel-efficient lamp. The 357th Regiment was surrounded tightly, leaving only one company to fight. However, just as the Sakata United was proud and preparing to launch a fierce attack on the new regiment, the remaining company seized the opportunity and fired a single shot to destroy Sakata's headquarters. At this moment, Chen Changfeng had already thrown the cooperation between Li Yifan and Route 8 out of the question. He felt happy in his heart, and the great achievement of killing Sakata Nobunaga was firmly recorded on the heads of the 357 Regiment. This is the big head soldier under Chen Changfeng's command, and on this military merit medal, his name must be the first. At this moment, Tsuehua, a female intelligence officer from the division headquarters, walked in. Her eyes were streaming, her mouth was smiling, and she gently twisted her waist and legs, presenting a document with a charming demeanor. Her watery skin and elegant neck made Chen Changfeng couldn't help but take a second look. I only heard Tsuehua's delicate voice say, Master, this is the latest analysis of the war situation. Would you like to care about it too? Chen Changfeng chuckled and thought to himself, with this battle achievement, the beauty has also arrived. Today is truly a double celebration. Hurry up and tell Captain Yen and the big shots of the mountain city the news of the great victory. Our 357th Regiment of the 65th Division sent the Japanese leader Sakata Nobutaka at Sanyan Ridge and seized their precious team flag. Over 2,000 little devils were also reimbursed. Delying. Will Li Yunlong be so angry that he jumps 3 feet high? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Oh, by the way, don't forget to give credit to the 358th Regiment, especially Chu Yunfei. That guy shelled the encirclement of Sakata and covered our battalion's retreat one by one. He's so handsome. Understood. Also, send a telegram to Li Yifan asking him to casually send the flag to the headquarters. Obey me. Telegrams rushed out from the 65th Division of Shuiquan one after another. Upon reading the telegram, Officer Yen was overjoyed and slapped his thigh. Finally, he raised his eyebrows and praised the 65th Division with great pleasure. On that side, Chang Shinkai looked at the telegram and was momentarily taken aback, unsure of where the flag of the squadron belonged. After understanding its weight, he quickly ordered the flag to be sent to the mountain city and gave a good compliment to the 65th Division. Commander Chen Changfeng was pleased to be promoted to the rank of Major General, while Li Yifan, as the number 1 hero, jumped 3 times in a row, becoming a lieutenant colonel and also serving as the acting commander of the 357th Regiment. He wore the 4th class Cloud Banner medal on his chest. As for Li Yunlong, he became an outsider in this victory. The results of the battle were reported, and his name didn't even show a trace. Due to the incident on the battlefield, Li Yunlong was kicked to the betting factory and became a factory director. At this moment, the female staff officer in the division headquarters, Xiao Hong, with her eyes rolling and a smile on her lips, gently twisted her waist and joked, "Oh my, Captain Li is going to deal with needles and thread this time. I wonder if those girls from the betting factory can tolerate Captain Li's hot temper." Upon hearing this, everyone burst into laughter, and the atmosphere became even more relaxed and cheerful. I said, "Director Zhang, do you evaluate the world as crazy?" Li Yunlong danced and operated the sewing machine, as if directing a big battle. Director Zhang raised his eyebrows and responded happily, "Oh, Director Li, what's wrong? What's bothering you again? Are you bothering me? Look, I'm thinking about how I can show off my skills in the betting factory. Over there, Li Yifan is doing well and has become the acting leader of the 357th Regiment." Li Yunlong snorted as if he had seen the battlefield that day and continued unwillingly, "If it weren't for my clever layout that caught the attention of the old fox in Sakata, could Li Yifan have been so easy to succeed? But now, fortunately, I have become the factory manager here, and he has unlimited scenery." Director Zhang chuckled and patted Li Yunlong on the shoulder. "Come on, I don't know what you are thinking. Just be calm. You will return to the battlefield sooner or later. But for now, let's sew on your military uniform first." Li Yunlong pursed his lips and said disapprovingly, Next time I meet that kid, I'll have to make him treat me to a drunken feast." But to be honest, this sewing machine is not as effective as a gun barrel on the battlefield. At this moment, Li Yifan came out of the division headquarters with a calm expression on his face. That guy, from head to toe, exudes a tinge of fiery vitality. He takes awards and awards lightly, like a leaf floating in the wind, not arrogant or impatient. Li Yunlong, on the other hand, was still arguing with Director Zhang while sneaking a glance at the female soldier passing by the window. Her chest was erect and her waist twisted, making her more tempting than any signal on the battlefield. He couldn't help but smack his lips and thought to himself, "Isn't this betting factory completely useless?" As soon as Li Yifan heard the news of the system reward, his eyes lit up, as if he saw a sparkling golden trophy right in front of him. "Congratulations, Captain you have been promoted and made a fortune. Reward you with an American-style infantry reinforcement regiment." The system voice rang in his ear. The system urged, "Don't be fooled, quickly pick a feng shui treasure and set up camp. The reward will come soon." Upon hearing this, Li Yifan felt as if she had been beaten with chicken blood, with 100 times more energy. I thought to myself, the leader of this regiment has unlimited scenery. If one day he becomes a division commander or a military commander, then he will not be able to ascend to heaven. He thought happily in his heart that this was authentic American equipment, which could not be compared to the improved goods of the Jin Sui army. Cannons, machine guns, everything, which man is not interested in. Alright, let's stay with the Jin Sui army for now. I'll show off my skills when I defeat the enemy. Li Yifan had an idea in his heart. He immediately unfolded the map and searched for a suitable base. You cannot be too far from Li Yunlong's independent team, otherwise it will be inconvenient to find rewards in the future. Glancing at the map, Li Yifan quickly locked onto the direction of Wanjie town. The independent group is only 30 miles away and not far from the Xiaowan. His gaze lingered in the mountain ditch to the west of Wanjie town, and finally fell on the place of Qinjie Gully. It is only 50 miles away from the enemy's Tiger Pavilion stronghold, with an excellent geographical location. Just as he was proudly looking at the map, he suddenly remembered the female intelligence officer in the group. Her captivating eyes and rosy lips slightly raised, as if implying something. It's decided, let's go to Chenjiagu. Li Yifan slapped his thigh and joyfully calculated the beautiful days ahead. Our special operations team needs to quickly go and hide near Yang village. Once the independent team starts working with Yamamoto's group of special agents, we have to jump out like rabbits to help. Li Yifan remembered in his heart that the Yamamoto Special Forces team had launched a surprise attack on Yang village, causing heavy casualties for the independent regiment. This Liang had to calculate carefully. He pondered in his heart whether this would have any impact on Li Yunlong's decision to join the independent regiment, but the Yamamoto group of guys must not let it go lightly. These guys just owe a lesson, even if they mess up the plot, they'll have to make it unbearable. Delying. Captain Zhou Rui responded and led the team towards Yang village with great enthusiasm. Li Yifan led the others straight to Chenjiagu. When passing by Wanjie town, he circled around the town. Wanjie town is one of the largest towns in this area, and there is also a gift Ding Wei is planning to give to Li Yunlong inside. He touched his chin and thought to himself, would Li Yunlong be so angry that he would jump 3 feet high if he got this gift first? As the sky gradually darkened, Li Yifan and his group arrived at Chenjiagu. This place is nice, backed by continuous mountains, with a babbling stream ahead. On the way in and out, there are many ambush points, which perfectly match the area of Lijiapa. Li Yifan stared at Lijiapa on the map, suddenly his eyes lit up, and then he became happy. At this moment, the female team member next to her, Wang Xiaohua, had a sly glint in her eyes and a smile on her lips. She joked, "Team Li, did you come up with some crazy idea again? Don't just focus on fun, share your happiness with us." As she spoke, she lightly patted her chest with a seductive movement that made people want to laugh. However, Li Yifan didn't care about these things, just felt, now the time for the young master to meet Li Yunlong is just around the corner. 007, what are you waiting for? Bring it back. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon seeing the terrain of Chenjiagu, Li Yifan made up his mind to settle the 357th Regiment here. When Taiyuan fell, the land of Shangxi fell into the hands of the devil. The brothers of the Jin Sui army and the 8th Route army became wandering soldiers and hid in this land. Li Yifan and his group not only have to deal with the battles in the Second World War zone, but they are also at ease on weekdays. The regiment has great autonomy, and the base runs according to the actual situation, as long as they say a word to the division headquarters. However, most of the time, people still prefer to be closer to the headquarters, first to protect the old nest, and secondly, it is also convenient to receive food and pay, isn't it? As soon as the station was confirmed, a large number of soldiers rewarded by the system rushed from all over the country. Within an hour, 3,000 soldiers and horses gathered in Chenjiagu, squeezing a small area to a standstill. Upon seeing this formation, Li Yifan could only scatter 3 battalions around and leave 1 battalion to engage in guerrilla warfare outside, forming a triangular formation. If only we were a mechanical team. He patted his thigh with regret. This reinforced regiment consists of 4 battalions, including our artillery battalion, carrying 20.4 155mm heavy howitzers with a majestic presence. Not to mention that each battalion is equipped with an artillery platoon, 12 field guns, and the firepower is not built. At this moment, the female intelligence officer beside her raised her eyebrows, smiled at the corners of her mouth, and her eyes flowed. She deliberately straightened her chest and said with a charming tone, "Captain, the power of our artillery battalion is not inferior to that of the mechanical regiment at all." Li Yifan was taken aback and couldn't help but laugh. Miss Lu is really good at timing and adding some fun. The reinforced regiment led by Li Yifan has a firepower that is not built up. Compared to Chang Shinkai's team, it is like heaven and earth. Li Yifan thought proudly, "I have a lot of artillery here. If the Yamazaki brigade dares to come and don't show them some color, they won't know how many eyes Lord Ma has." As he pondered, he looked at Li Jiapa and muttered to himself, "This place is Li Yunlong's famous battlefield. Old Li, I'm sorry, I'm afraid we'll have to steal your attention this time." After settling everything down, Li Yifan quickly reported to the division headquarters and sent another company to collect supplies, intending to develop industries in Chenjiago. As they were figuring out how to arrange the production line, a battalion commander named Yu Pengfei stormed in and said, "Report, Captain, we found bandits in the back mountain." Bandits? Li Yifan was taken aback. Yeah, Sanlian was exploring in the mountains and accidentally bumped into the bandits' lair. Yu Pengfei replied. "What are you waiting for? Grab your tongue and come back." Li Yifan ordered. In the middle of the night, Yu Pengfei indeed brought a bandit. The bandit was bound and stood trembling in front of Li Yifan. Li Yifan looked at him up and down and asked, "Tell me, what's your name? What's your name in the mountain village, and who's the leader?" The bandit swallowed his saliva and looked nervously at Li Yifan, seeming hesitant to speak. Seeing him hesitating, Li Yifan's eyes widened and he threatened, "Don't speak. Believe it or not, I want you to eat peanuts." At this moment, the female intelligence officer next to her, Wang Xiaohong, with her eyes rolling and a smile on her lips, gently patted the bandit's shoulder and said softly, "Oh, why are you so nervous? As long as you're honest, our regimental leader won't make things difficult for you." Her bright eyes and slightly reddened lips made the bandits swallow their saliva, and they secretly sighed. It was even more tempting than the Mountain King in the mountains. Li Yifan shook his wrist and showed off his little treasure. The gun. With a smile, pressing against the sieve-like bandit's forehead in front of him. "Oh my God, sir, don't let your gun go wrong. I'm very obedient, and I'll ask you whatever you want. You know everything." Comrade Nyo Air was so scared that his bladder relaxed, and the scene was awkward for a moment. Come on, don't cry. Dad calls Mom, tell me your name first." Nyo Option 2. The smaller one is called Nyo Air. "What's the name of your Shanjai?" Black Cloud Fortress, Black Cloud Fortress. "I was forcibly pulled up the mountain by that bastard Xia Baoqing. I was originally a lawless hunter. My family still has an old lady waiting for her son to return. Sir, please show mercy." Nyo Air had a runny nose and tears, but Li Yifan's heart skipped a beat. Why is this Black Cloud village so familiar to him? "So, what's the name of your big boss?" "Xia Baoqing, sir, the second in charge is a bobcat, I'm not sure about the rest." Nyo Air hurriedly added, fearing that the old man would send him away if he was not satisfied. "Black Cloud Village, Xia Baoqing." Li Yifan's eyes lit up and suddenly remembered. Aren't these the bandits who took care of Master Wei back then? He muttered to himself that there were many regrets in Bright Sword. The brothers of the cavalry company were very heroic, and Wei Monk was so frustrated that even Li Yunlong finally used a gun to solve himself. Unexpectedly, when I ran to Chenjiago, I ran into these guys from Heiyin village. At this moment, a female detective next to her had her eyes flickering, her red lips lightly parted, and she said coquettishly, "Oh, brother you've caught a big living person in such a short time. You're really amazing. She lightly brushed her chest and gave Nyo Air a charming glance, which made Nyo Air swallow his saliva and curse inwardly. In this world, bandits are hard to deal with. Oh my, Xia Baoqing. Xia Baoqing, are you a monkey fishing for the moon, or are you bumping yourself into the muzzle of a gun? Li Yifan shook his head while speaking, with a hint of mockery in his tone. The female soldier Tsuehua beside him listened and covered her lips with a light smile. Her eyes curved into crescent moon, and she gave him a charming white look. Brother Yu, your mouth is becoming more and more like Li Yunlong. Li Yifan chuckled and became complacent, then raised his face and shouted to Nyo Air, how many shrimp soldiers and crab generals are there in your village? Tell me quickly, and draw all those iron guys for me. Nyo World War II was trembling, but he still straightened his waist and stuttered, there are over 300 people in our village, and there are also over 300 guns. As for mortars, they are the treasures of adults. How can a small servant like me see them? The village is located on the mountainside of Dahe Mountain, winding and winding. Come on, I'm too lazy to ask too much about your trivial matters. I'll probably just draw a picture. Li Yifan waved his hand, but he thought to himself that if there were those monkeys from the Special Operations team present at this moment, they would probably have painted it exactly like the real thing. In a blink of an eye, he became proud again and patted his thigh, saying, Brother of my camp, are you still afraid of these 3 melons and 2 jujubes? Black Cloud Village, see if I don't stir it up to earth. Tsuehua pursed her lips and lightly patted Li Yifan's shoulder. Her soft, jade-like catkins made Li Yifan's heart flutter and she said, Brother you are so majestic that even a young woman is tempted by you. Li Yifan widened her eyes, feeling a surge of heat in her heart. However, she deliberately stiffened her face and put on an arrogant expression, saying, what's the use of your heart's desire? I only care about Black Cloud Village. But now, I haven't had time to think about the fate of Black Cloud Village. 008, The Taste of Women. You are listening at novelfull.audio. No matter who he does business with, as long as he can make his brothers eat and drink spicy food, it's his ability. The devil is the devil. Speaking of this, Xia Baoqing happily patted the table and raised the big bowl in his hand. Come on, brothers, let's do this bowl together. Although I, Xia Baoqing, am not a hero, in times of chaos, everyone still has some confidence. Cheers, cheers! A group of bandits cheered and raised their bowls one after another. Xia Baoqing secretly glanced at the third in command next to him, with a sneer on his lips. It's really uninteresting to mention doing business with the Japanese at this moment. After drinking and eating, Xia Baoqing already had a plan in his mind. Today, in this deal with the Japanese, he sold his iron ore at a good price in exchange for firearms and food. Of course, he didn't tell the Japanese that these iron mines were dug from the back mountain, he only said that they robbed the transportation team of the Jin Sui army. This deal was successful, and Xia Baoqing began to consider the next plan. The iron ore in the back mountain is a treasure, and we must not let the devils know, otherwise they will definitely send troops to steal it. Second brother. Master, what are your instructions? Send someone down the mountain tomorrow to catch a few strong men from afar and come back. Yes. Remember, to select young and middle-aged men, labor is needed in the back mountain area. Don't worry, big boss. Okay, let's keep drinking. In the gathering hall of Heian village, there is constant laughter and joy, making it incredibly lively. Everyone is celebrating the success of their business, and the atmosphere is lively. At this moment, Xia Baoqing's gaze couldn't help but fall on the girl who had been snatched from the village next to her. She saw her eyes flickering, her lips slightly raised, her tempting nostrils trembling gently, and her chest heaving, as if silently inviting something. Xia Baoqing's heart shook as he quickly withdrew his gaze and continued to immerse himself in the celebration. Xia Baoqing made a big move this time, offering dozens of jars of good wine and about 10 fat pigs, allowing everyone to eat and drink to their heart's content. He understood in his heart that these brothers were his foundation, so treating his subordinates was called generosity. As time passed, everyone in the room drank in a daze, but Xia Baoqing remained clear-headed. His tolerance for alcohol was never average, and he didn't drink much of it today. Just as everyone was getting drunk, the second in charge of the house, the mountain cat, approached Xia Baoqing and whispered, "Big brother, what do you have to say?" Xia Baoqing glanced at the drunken crowd below and whispered, "Think of a way to deal with the third person. Keep your hands and feet clean, and don't let anyone see any flaws." The bobcat nodded knowingly after listening. The third Prince Wang Taizhan, who was originally a soldier, defected to Xia Baoqing with a group of subordinates after his defeat. Xia Baoqing naturally welcomed him and even instructed him to train his subordinates. With Wang Taizhan, the bandits of Heian village have gained some combat effectiveness and are adept at seizing the puppet army, Jin Sui army, the 8th Route army, and the Little Devils. But Wang Taizhan, on the other hand, has a single intention of resisting Japan and fighting against the Japanese, and his differences with Xia Baoqing are getting bigger and bigger. Well, while everyone was happy today, he insisted on bringing up this disappointing incident. Xia Baoqing was unhappy, and even the bobcat couldn't please Wang Taizhan. At this moment, Cuehua, a female investigator in the field, walked over with her eyes rolling, her mouth smiling, and her chest trembling gently with her steps. She handed Xia Baoqing a glass of wine and said softly, "Big brother, have a drink. Don't let those unpleasant things affect your mood." Xia Baoqing took the wine glass and chuckled inwardly. This emerald flower is really a language flower, knowing how to observe words and expressions, making people feel comfortable. Xia Baoqing glanced askance and chuckled inwardly. If it weren't for Wang Tishan's group of 40 thieves here, the little bobcat would have taken over long ago. Come on, old option 2. I can still hold on to my low alcohol tolerance. Go take care of the other brothers and don't forget about the night patrol. You need to be clever. Xia Baoqing pretended to be drunk, but his voice was not small, instructing the bobcat. Don't worry, big boss. I have already selected a few sober brothers to be on duty at night. Let them open their stomachs and have a good drink tomorrow. The mountain cat replied. Okay, I really drank too much tonight. As Xia Baoqing spoke, he patted the shoulders of the bandits and said, "Everyone open up to drink, open up to eat. Master, please take your time. Big boss." Outside the Black Cloud Fortress, Captain Yu Pengfei, with his cow, carefully observed option 2. "Sir, this is the Black Cloud Fortress. There are several secret outposts on the outskirts, and there are ones on that tree. I'm not sure about the rest." Niu Er said softly. In the darkness, Yu Pengfei and others had already noticed the clues. For the second company, pick a few people and occupy the key positions. Try not to make too much noise. After speaking, he turned his head and asked Niu Er, "I heard that you have a celebration banquet tonight." "Yeah, the big boss did a great job in this transaction. The village is very lively, so please have a big drink." Niu Er replied. At this moment, a girl in the village who had been serving her brothers for a long time, her eyes flickered, her red lips parted slightly, she smiled lightly, and her chest trembled slightly with the laughter. She said to the brothers next to her, "Tonight, the leader is so happy, we need to add some fire. Come on, whoever loses will drink this bowl of wine." Her smile, as if carrying electricity, made the bandits present involuntarily swallow their saliva, and the atmosphere became even more intense. Yu Pengfei touched his chin and nodded with a mischievous smile, it seems that these bandits are preparing not to get drunk and not to return today. Isn't this our chance? Black Cloud Village is hidden on the mountainside of Tahitian Mountain, which is so steep that it looks like a place specially designed by heaven for bandits. It is a crooked path with bottomless cliffs on both sides, and even a slight mistake can turn people into stars in the sky. If we could mount a few machine guns on those two cliffs and set up a firepower point higher, hey, dozens of people could block the road to death. Yu Pengfei pondered, secretly grateful that there was no need to confront him forcefully. In the darkness, the soldiers of the second company, like cats, silently stroked towards the Black Cloud Fortress. Although they don't know the specific location of the secret outpost, anyone can guess a rough idea of the terrain. On the big tree mentioned by Nyo Air, two bandits were sitting on a shaky little platform, complaining and joking with each other. One of them sighed and said, "Alas, today was really unlucky." The celebration banquet of the big boss was a feast of wine and meat. Another person didn't take it seriously. "Come on, let's take turns guarding the night. The big boss will definitely make up for it tomorrow noon. But I just want to have a good drink with everyone. The first bandit hasn't given up yet. Come on, what's the point of drinking?" Another bandit frowned and deliberately lowered his voice, "Next time we go down the mountain, I'll take you to taste the true taste of women. 009, cop guys, fight them. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Oh. What does that feel like?" The first bandit asked curiously. "This feeling." The bandit chuckled and deliberately played a trick, with a hint of lust in his eyes. "Let me put it this way, the taste is like taking a sip of chilled sour plum soup on a hot day, from my throat to my toes." As he spoke, he scanned not far away with a smug expression, as if imagining the eyes, lips, and chest of a female detective, as if those temptations were right in front of him. The two of them were chatting while under the tree, two soldiers exchanged glances and gestured up. A ghostly grin and, like a slippery cat, quietly climbed up. The tree was so thick that it was astonishing. The two of them arched left and right, as if in a competition. With just a few strokes, they reached the top of the tree and caught the two hidden whistles straight. "Hey, don't tell me, are there any bugs growing on this tree?" A soldier joked and quietly walked around behind a bandit, leaping lightly, covering his mouth with his hand, and turning his knife with clean and sharp movements. Another bandit was about to shout, and his comrades next to him followed suit and easily dealt with the two secret sentries. "Captain, we're like picking fruits, secretly monitoring everywhere. We've dealt with all 9 bandits." The soldiers reported proudly. "Okay, young men, then let's go up the mountain and pick peaches." The battalion commander waved his hand and the troops silently advanced towards the mountain. At this moment, the group of bandits in the Black Cloud village didn't even know that a big disaster was imminent. They were drinking and punching, and it was a lively scene. Yu Pengfei stood in front of the village gate, his eyes burning with flames, staring at the wooden gate, as if he had already seen those drunken and dreamy guys inside. In the village, a female detective with a waist like a willow and smiling eyes gently patted the shoulder of a drunken bandit and said with a coquettish smile, "Oh my, your tolerance for alcohol is not good. You only had a few drinks before lying down." Before she could finish speaking, the bandit snored like thunder, completely unaware that he was only one door away from danger. A few bandits were guarding the intersection, happily watching the group of people rolling into a ball on the open land. Suddenly, while laughing, they heard a loud shout. "Take action!" With a command from Yu Pengfei, the soldiers descended the mountain like fierce tigers, leaped out of the mountain road, and in the blink of an eye, climbed up the fortress wall. Those bandits had not yet regained their senses and became ghosts under the knife. The door opened, and Yu Pengfei led his men and horses to break into the mountain fortress. For a moment, the bandits were in chaos and the village was filled with flying chickens and dogs. Someone shouted, "No problem, the 8th Route Army has come in. Copy guys, fight them. Run for your life." At this moment, Xia Baoqing was anxiously waiting for news inside the house. When he heard the noise outside, he grabbed his gun, pushed the door open, and saw chaos in front of him. The soldiers were like wolves and tigers, and his men scattered and fled. Xia Baoqing only had one word in his heart. Escape. He knew that although these subordinates could bully civilians, confronting the regular army was purely seeking death. He panicked and ran towards the back mountain, where he had reserved a way out. However, at this critical moment, a voice cut through the sky. "Boss, that's him, that's the big shot Xia Baoqing." Xia Baoqing was caught, his face even darker than the bottom of the pot. He stared wide-eyed and saw one of his younger brothers, who seemed to be named Nio or something, being pointed at like a monkey. He was furious and reached for his waist, thinking to himself that this time he must give that kid some color to see. But before the pistol was pulled out, it was heard bang with a loud sound. His arm felt as if it had been stung by a bee, causing him to stumble and fall to the ground in pain. The Black Cloud Fortress was finished, and when the news reached Li Yifan's ears, he breathed a sigh of relief and slept like a child. Li Yifan stood on the small path at the entrance of the Shanzhai, shaking his head and admiring, "This terrain is like heaven giving gifts to the bandits." No wonder Xia Baoqing was able to grab a bowl full of food and still manage to escape unscathed. The main force wants to attack. That's queuing up to die. The Japanese have guns and cannons, but they don't want to put in a lot of effort over this matter. As for the 8th route, they don't have the ability yet. Xia Baoqing lived a comfortable life until the appearance of Grandpa Li Yifan. "Let's go into the village and have a look." Li Yifan waved his hand and led the people into the village. His gaze was immediately drawn to a clearing on the slope, where dozens of small wooden houses stood in chaos, which was the safe haven for the bandits. At this moment, a new recruit named Egg came to report to Captain, "Those guys from Heiyin village have been obediently cleaned up by us. A total of 76 have been eliminated, 253 have been captured, and none of them have escaped. Oh, by the way, I also scraped around 100,000 kilograms of grain, including white flour, rice, and wheat, all in one piece. I picked up more than 3,000 silver coins, as well as that fiat currency. Grab a bunch of them, about 100,000. As for those long and short firearms, cannons, and machine guns, we have also seized a bunch of them, and we can't even count them." Before Yu Pengfei could finish speaking, Li Yifan smiled happily and nodded repeatedly. This record is simply making people feel great." Li Yifan was secretly pleased that 100,000 kilograms of grain had solved his major problem and was enough for his brothers to eat for 2 months. As for those weapons, he didn't even blink his eyelids and said, "This piece of scrap metal is more like giving it to that guy Li Yunlong. His independent team is really lacking in this bit of wealth." Yu Pengfei saw that the leader was in a good mood and took the opportunity to continue, "One more thing, leader. We found a mining cave on the back mountain. Those bandits used to force the people to mine for them." "Mine?" Li Yifan raised his eyebrows, appearing somewhat surprised. "Yeah, iron, copper, and saltpeter are all good things. Although the production is not high now, the texture is really good." Yu Pengfei spoke vividly. Walk, take me a look." Li Yifan slapped her thigh, excited like a child. He already had a plan for a weapons production line in his mind, but he was struggling with the lack of raw materials. This time, it's really a pie in the sky. As soon as Li Yifan stepped into the back mountain of the Black Cloud Fortress, his heart was filled with joy. He didn't expect that there were so many treasures hidden in this wilderness. He walked happily inside, and in less than 10 minutes, he suddenly became clear and saw a mountain wall. Shovel and pickaxes were thrown all over the ground beside the hole cut out on the mountain wall, and a group of people stood there with empty eyes, one after another like frosted eggplants. Li Yifan shook his head and couldn't help but laugh and cry on his face. Xia Baoqing, this kid, said he hasn't bullied the people before. So, have the people come to help themselves? Boss, these are all brought by Xia Baoqing, all poor guys near us, the subordinate reported. 010, do you dare to say that you are not bullying the weak and afraid of the hard? You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Li Yifan touched his chin, his eyes rolled, and he had an idea. Someone, go register and ask about their family situation. All relatives and friends will come to live in the village. Tell them, we are a team that follows the rules. We have money to mine, manage our meals, and even reunite with our families. He paused and then added, however, tell those brothers that this mountain cannot be left casually, and the secrets of the mine must be kept tightly hidden. The little devils don't know there are mines in this mountain now, otherwise they would have rushed up long ago. What they lack now is these resources. Gasoline, iron ore, copper ore. We need to be careful. Li Yifan pointed to the mountain and said, there are abundant mineral resources in that mountain. If the little devil gets to go, he must be happy to bloom. He swept around and his voice sank. Block all mountain entrances, we can't let the devils take any advantage. In addition to the path on the other side of Heian village, there are also 2 narrow paths. The subordinate reported with a tone of exhaustion from staying up late. I don't even have a ghost in my daily life. Then send your brothers to guard, not even an ant can be let go. Li Yifan ordered. In the Black Cloud Fortress, the bandits crouched with their heads in their arms. The leaders of Xie Baoqing, Bobcat, and Wang Taizhan were tightly tied with ropes. At the beginning, Xie Baoqing looked bitter and said, Sir, it's true that Xie Baoqing is a bandit, but he also comes from a good family background and never bullies the weak or fears the hard. I have also fought against those devils a lot. This is a huge misunderstanding. Li Yifan glanced askance and saw the female investigator next to Xie Baoqing, with tears flashing in her eyes and a slight rise and fall in her chest, as if pleading for Xie Baoqing. He chuckled inwardly, but remained calm on his face. Misunderstanding. Come on, tie it up first, we'll talk later. After speaking, he turned around and left, leaving Xie Baoqing staring there. How dare you say you're not bullying the weak and afraid of the hard? What about those water-spirited young girls and daughter.in.law in the village? And those poor brothers who mine in the back mountain, didn't you take the opportunity to make a profit? Upon hearing this, Xie Baoqing's neck slowly drooped down like a shrunken turtle. Sir, if you raise your hand, I have also accumulated some small treasures over the years. Please let me go and I will take you to find them. This Xie Baoqing is truly a slippery loach, leaving himself a way out early on and hiding his gold, silver, and treasures tightly. Upon hearing this, Li Yifan burst out laughing and said, Someone, take him aside and let him explain it well. See if that treasure is gold. Bargaining with Li Yifan. Isn't that self-destructive? Delying. Yu Pengfei led several ferocious soldiers and escorted Xie Baoqing away like carrying chicks. Li Yifan then turned his gaze to the second-in-command Bobcat. It's this guy with a face full of flesh and triangular eyes, who has cut the monk's hand. At this moment, he was all tied up, with no trace of ferocity and evil energy, replaced by a look of panic. Chop it. Li Yifan didn't even furrow his brows and sentenced Bobcat to death. Yes. SM was completely flustered at this time and shouted. Sir, I know where that bastard Xie Baoqing hid his things. Please forgive me this time. Li Yifan waved his hand with impatience on his face. Several soldiers immediately blocked the mouth of the mountain cat and dragged it aside. Someone over there was already impatiently waiting, with their hands wielding knives and their hands falling. The cold light of the Japanese assistant official sword flashed, and the Bobcat's head rolled to the ground. Li Yifan slowly turned his eyes and looked towards the next unlucky person. Wang Taizhan looked up, his face half joking and half serious. Sir, my name as a deserter can't escape, but the brothers I brought along are all following me. Over the years, I have made them dare not even catch a chicken casually, let alone bully the common people. We are also very brave in robbing the things of the Japanese and traders. You can do well, don't let them be unlucky like me, maybe we can even add bricks and tiles to you and clean up the little Japanese together. Li Yifan looked at him with a slanted glance, and a hint of a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. You Birdman, you can quite talk, he said. Okay, call out all your soldiers and generals, let me see if they are as slippery as you. Wang Taizhan responded, and in no time, a group of people stood in a sparse row. Some were so nervous that their noses trembled, while others were playful and smiling, as if watching a good show. Li Yifan separated the people and took those who had engaged in bullying behavior aside, preparing to accept punishment, and those who are just playing around are sent to the back mountain to exercise their bodies. This job is really not easy. After working hard for 4 days, Li Yifan finally breathed a sigh of relief. After some examination, except for a few who secretly made small moves, everyone else really behaved very well. Li Yifan nodded and thought to himself that although Wang Taizhan was a deserter, the team he was leading still looked impressive. He glanced at the female detective standing next to him, and saw that she had a smile in her eyes and a light lips, as if she also had some appreciation for these people. All right, Wang Taizhan. Li Yifan patted his thigh and said, you guys will be my team members from now on. Work hard for me, don't lose face with our team. Hey, have you heard about it? The new recruits in our independent regiment said they used to be deserters before, but this time they're fighting against the Japanese. They're actually trying to become the death squad, saying they want to make amends for themselves. Yang Village, shrouded in night. The independent group has been stationed in Yang Village for 2 days, but Kong Jie has been feeling as if he has lost his soul and his heart is in turmoil. It was late at night, and Kong Jie finished patrolling the sentry post. With a calm face, he returned to the camp, smoking his cigarette bags with a click. Guard Xiao Lu brought over a glass of water and joked, Captain, your eyebrows are so furrowed that you can trap mosquitoes. Why don't you rest early? Kong Jie took a sip of water and said helplessly, I'm not feeling at ease. I always feel like something's going to happen. Xiao Lu smiled and wanted to persuade him again, but Kong Jie had already made up his mind and stood up, saying, I need to go and see again. He walked out of the camp again and patrolled all the way to and from Yang Village. Clear and secret, everything is normal. Upon reaching the cliff behind the village, Kong Jie pondered for a moment and ordered, add another machine gun firepower point here. With the addition of firepower points, he felt slightly more at ease, but that anxiety still lingered with him. Shaking his head, trying to shake off his unease, Kong Jie returned to the barracks to rest. Unexpectedly, more than an hour later, there was a sudden movement in the direction of Yangtzuan village. At this moment, on a previously quiet night, several new recruits were gathered together and whispering, if we can survive, can we confess to that beautiful health worker? The group of people around couldn't help but joke and say, haha, save it. Let's wait until tonight before we talk.